Hi guys, in this video we're making a really simple cowrie shell sliding knot bracelet. It's got the sliding knot at the back and a single cowrie shell at the front for a beautiful minimalistic bracelet. For our design today we're using 0.8mm polyester cord, and to start with we need a 40cm length and a 10cm length as well. So just measure and cut both of those lengths. And now it's time to find a really pretty cowrie shell. So mine are not the drilled type, they are the type that are sort of shaved on the top, making them a bit flatter. So just check them over, make sure there's no damage. Now we're going to attach our cowrie shell in the middle of our length of cord. So with the longer cord, placing the ends together, following it back down to the middle. Now same with the shorter cord, placing the ends together, following it back down to the middle. Now placing the two middles together. So this is the section that we're going to place our little cowrie shell in. Now holding towards the left side end of the shorter cord and grabbing both cords there, we tie a simple overhand knot. So bringing the cords around to form a loop, bringing the cords through the loop and pulling this down tight closer to that left side of the shorter cord. Pulling both cords to make sure that knot is nice and tight. Now we can place our shell into this section here. So taking one cord, we're going to go down the cowrie shell and out to the right hand side. Sliding it along. Now with the other cord, we're going to take this one up the cowrie shell and out that hole in the top. Now bringing that cowrie shell right up close to the left hand side, and they do have a little groove where your cord is going to sit in the bottom of the shell. So just make sure your cowrie shell is sitting nicely and that cord is in the groove. Now pulling it all nice and tight, we tie another knot on this side. So pulling your cords around to form a loop, bringing both ends through the loop, and we're gently going to work with our cord to pull it up nice and tight against the shell. It's a little bit tricky to get it tight, but gently hold it all in place, holding the ends of your cord as well, and gently push that knot up against the shell, slowly pulling it tight so that you can pull it tight into position. You want it up nice and close to the shell, holding that cowrie shell secure in the center. So pulling those cords, making sure your knots are nice and tight. And you should have something that looks similar to this with your cowrie shell held secure in the center. Now we're going to cut these shorter lengths off, they're not needed anymore. So cutting them nice and close and gently fusing with a lighter to melt the end. Gently melting and tapping to fuse it onto the knot and so that it doesn't look too bulky. Doing the same on both sides of the cowrie shell so that we're just left with a little cowrie shell and one thread coming out each side. Now on to making a simple sliding knot for our bracelet. So I bring the cords around and overlap them on the right hand side here. Now we need another length of our 0.8mm cord, about 40 centimeters long. Now laying this piece of cord underneath where the cords overlap, sitting it about in the middle. Now for a square knot slider, we bring the left side cord around across to the right, leaving a little loop here on the left hand side. Now bringing the right side cord down over this other cord and gently passing it underneath to come up that loop we left on the left hand side, pulling both ends tight. Now for a square knot we alternate each stitch, so this next stitch will be a right side stitch. So bringing the right side cord around across to the left, leaving our little loop on the right hand side here. Left side cord comes down over this other cord and gently passing it underneath to come up that loop on the right hand side. Pulling both ends tight. And now our next stitch will be a left side stitch again. So just continue alternating these same stitches until your little sliding knot is as long as you want it to be. Mine here, I ended up doing about 7 stitches. Once you're happy with the size of your square sliding knot, make sure it's all nice and tight, pulled together, and then we can cut these tails off the sides of our knot. So just making sure you're cutting the right tails, one on each side of this sliding knot here. Now gently melting the ends to fuse them onto the knot, making sure you don't melt too much because you need this knot to be able to slide along. Now the only thing that's left to do is to size our bracelet and put some little stopper knots on the cords. So the best way is just to try your bracelet on and see what positions you need your knots to be in on the cords. So mine need to be about here. So just putting it back into that position, and then we can tie a simple overhand knot onto each cord. You could also place some beads on before you tie these knots if you wanted to. Pulling those knots down tight and making sure they're even on both cords. Now you can cut these tails off just outside the knots and singe with a lighter so they don't fray.